You decide you're going to change, usually at night. You feel clear for a moment and tell yourself this time is different. The next day starts strong. A few days later, something slips. Not dramatically, just enough. And before you realize it, you're back where you started, telling yourself you'll reset again soon. That's not because you didn't want it badly enough. It's because the reset is fake. You change the goal. You don't change the system that decides your behavior. This video isn't about discipline or fresh starts. It's about why your life keeps rebooting and how to stop repeating the same cycle for good. If that felt familiar, here's why. Most people don't restart because they're careless. They restart because they're serious. They care enough to reflect, to want better, to try again. The problem is what happens next. They walk back into the same days with the same pressure, the same defaults, the same expectations. So when the initial energy fades, the system they never changed quietly takes over. That's not a personal failure. That's what systems do. And if you have been here before, you're not broken. You're just in a loop that needs time to be replaced. I watched this exact loop play out in business, health, and relationships. Different goals, different collapse, same reason. Most systems don't shift in a weekend. They need a window, about 90 days for structure to stop fighting you. Not to become someone new, just to stop resetting. Here's what's actually happening. The hardest part for you isn't starting. It's realizing the same restart keep ending the same way. Your behavior isn't decided in the moment you try to change. It's decided earlier by what's familiar, what's already scheduled, by what's easiest to return to when energy drops. Your brain follows the path that's been reinforced. Your calendar fills itself. Your environment makes the next move obvious. Your defaults decides before you do. Your phone, your calendar, your money stress. So even when the intention is real, the day quietly pulls you back to the old version by default. Nothing dramatic breaks. There's no failure moment. The system just resumes control. Same structure, same input, same outcome. That's why change feels possible at the decision point but fragile in real life. Not because you did it wrong, because the structure that decides your behavior was never changed in the first place. And until that order changes, every reset collapses the same way. Which is why the first thing that has to go isn't the habit, it's the reset itself. So if the structure is deciding the outcome, the fix isn't trying harder inside the same setup. It's changing the order things happen in. And this is where most people get it backwards. You decide you're done with the old pattern. You tell yourself this time is different. Maybe you tell someone else too. That's the first mistake. Because the moment you announce change, you create pressure before the system can support it. That pressure doesn't help you commit. It forces you to perform. What actually works is quieter. You don't declare a reset. You let it sit. You stop explaining what you're about to do. You stop inviting reactions. You give the new direction a little room to exist without being pulled back into the old version of you. That's why the first few days matter more than the announcement. Before the system has time to adjust, silence protects it. For the next 7 days, don't announce the change to anyone, not one person. Once that pressure is gone, you notice something else immediately. You're overloaded. Same phones, same obligations, same background noise. And this is where people usually add more rules and wonder why everything collapses again. The ones who hold change longer do the opposite. They don't rebuild yet, they reduce. They remove one thing that drains them every day. Maybe it's deleting the app they always just check. Maybe it's saying not to the standing commitment they secretly resent. Maybe it's stepping the late night spiral that ruins the next morning. Nothing dramatic, just enough relief that the day stops fighting them. And once there's some breathing room, something interesting happens. You start acting differently, not perfectly, not consistently, but long enough to notice something else. It's not the behavior is failing, it's that it can't hold. Not because you lack discipline, but because there's nothing underneath it. Because underneath it, the identity hasn't caught up yet. That's why you can change for a few weeks and then quietly drift back. So instead of waiting to feel like a different person, you give yourself one signal that says, I don't do it the old way anymore. You don't wait for identity to catch up. You give it something to lock onto. Sometimes it's how you dress. Sometimes it's exercising at the same time every day. Sometimes it's the way you structure mornings. It's not for other people. It's for your self-trust. And now the next problem shows up. Even with intention, even with a clear identity, the day keeps slipping. Because when nothing is decided ahead of time, the old defaults decide for you. So instead of relying on motivation, you log that day down. Not the whole week, not your entire life, just a few non-negotiable blocks that don't require decision making. Once the calendar changes, behavior follows without effort. And then there's the part almost nobody talks about: money noise. If financial pressure is loud, everything else becomes fragile. People try to change their lives while their nervous system is constantly on edge. And when money is unstable, every habit is borrowed time. The ones who stabilize fastest don't chase 5 ideas. They narrow. One income direction, one stabilizing move. Not forever, just long enough to breathe and stop making fear-based decisions. At this point, something is finally possible: consistency. But it's still delicate. So instead of looking for proof, they delay visibility. They track quietly. They adjust weekly. They let the behavior harden before asking it to perform in public. That's how the system stops resetting and starts compounding. If you want a place to let this settle without turning it into a public commitment, I write privately through this exact kind of work in the Grid Behind Growth newsletter. Not to motivate you, to give the system somewhere stable to land. And if you're listening to this thinking, I've tried version of this before, good. That doesn't mean you're inconsistent. It means you're asking your nervous system to carry change without giving it support. Nothing here requires you to become more disciplined, more motivated, or more intense. You don't need a stronger personality. You don't need to fix yourself. The version of you that slipped back wasn't weak. You were overloaded and unprotected. This isn't about becoming someone new overnight. It's about making the next version of yourself easier to be than the old one. When the system is right, the behavior stops feeling like a fight. And when the behavior stops feeling like a fight, you don't need willpower to keep going. You just need to stop tearing the structure down every time it starts working. So here's the only move I want you to take from this. Not a reset, not a plan, not a list. Just one rule: stop announcing change before it stabilizes. That's it. No explaining, no posting, no promising anyone anything. Pick one small behavior that supports the direction you want and let it run quietly. If it holds for a week, keep it. If it doesn't, adjust without judgment. You don't need intensity, you need containment. Let the system do the work before you ask the identity to carry it. The problem was never that you couldn't change. It's that every time you tried, you asked the change to survive in the same environment that trained the old version of you. That's why it kept slipping. Not because you weren't serious, not because you didn't want it badly enough, but because nothing was built to hold it yet. You don't need a fresh start. You don't need a structure that doesn't collapse under pressure. Build that quietly. Let it settle. And one day you'll realize you didn't become someone new. You just start resetting back to the old one. If this hit close, the next thing to understand is why you beat yourself when this cycle breaks. That's exactly what I break down in this video, and I want you to watch it next. It connects directly to this video. And if this kind of thinking helps you breathe a little and actually move forward, you should probably subscribe. Not because it's a YouTube tradition, but because your feed could use fewer hype resets and more systems that actually work. This is Grid Behind Growth, where change stops fighting resistance and starts resetting on structure. Quietly, deliberately. Let's build it together.